Let's talk a little bit about Bagwell. He had worked the undercard for the past couple of years, was recognized as one of wrestling's most promising talents. You couldn't get through a broadcast without Jim Ross making sure we all knew he was Rookie of the Year. But at this point, he had been with the company for about 2 years. What sticks out to you about the time that you spent working with Marcus?
Well, I mean, he just kind of really came, out of nowhere. He came, I guess, from the school, right? He wasn't really experienced a lot, but I mean, the whole package, his gear, handsome guy, good body, had that Furlan Husky hairdo, had that shit blowed way back.
Yes.
Way up there. So I mean, he had it all looks wise, and he had a lot of talent, a lot of babyface skills, good drop kicks, and all kind of stuff like that babyfaces needed, and you could tell that kid, was heading places.
That's funny. He might have been cutting that shit with the Flowbee. You remember that thing? It was the attachment on the vacuum cleaner gimmick.
I think he might have been hanging upside down from some stairway and letting it fall down, and somebody walk up on him and spray it or something.
And listen to us, two guys that are follically challenged, just having a good old time at Buff's expense. I love it.
We don't have a clue how he got that hair.
I know, right?
We're just throwing rocks without really throwing rocks.
There you go.
If you don't know who Furlan Husky is and why I called Bagwell Furlan to this day, look it up.
I Googled him right now, Arn. I couldn't help myself, and holy shit, I see it now. Love it. From the Grand Ole Opry, Furlan Husky.
That's correct.
I love it. Good stuff. Well, listen, we got some questions already from some of our listeners, and it comes from Patrick Ruth. He says, what was Buff missing, in Arn's opinion, that kept him from a top spot?
He was always figured in, but those top spots were few and far between, and it wasn't that easy to move from a middle spot to a top spot. It just really wasn't, because there was only room for a couple of guys there, and you needed to pay your dues. You needed to earn your way there too. If you would have just brought him in and him win a few matches, and then you all of a sudden put him with the top guys, the audience will not accept that. You have to earn that.
Yeah, and you said it too, even when you started talking about Bagwell, was he came in kind of from the school, right, from the training center, and so he needed a lot more ring time, a lot more, and I don't necessarily mean ring time, but just working angles, telling stories, getting in front of the mic, all that development. And that was going to take time for somebody like that, especially ahead of you, like you said, when you have Steve Austin's and Brian Pillman's and some of these other guys that are kind of getting that spot in these days.
And let me tell you, in the old days, what you needed to get over as a babyface, he needed to be in some wars. He needed to be in there with some knockdown, drag out fights with some really tough heels, and survive them, so that the audience knew that, hey, if he got down and he got hurt, he was still in the fight, and that's how you got over in those days. It wasn't so much about aerial skills and all the pretty moves. I mean, he needed to get his ass kicked and not stay down.
Yeah,
and maybe that was what he wasn't booked in those tight matches, and he never got there during that time period, because that was reserved for the top stuff.
Additionally, Terrell Lewis, he wants to know, he says, Arn is a natural born heel like yourself. How much torture was it working with a white meat babyface like Bagwell? So you were tagging with him just a few times here, but what was that like? I mean, white meat is the perfect word when it comes to babyface that he was at this point.
Well, it was oil and water.
Yeah.
And again, in those days, guys, there's no way for me to make sense out of some of the things I was put in and some of the things that occurred in those early days of WCW. And again, we're at the 3-year mark, right?
Yeah.
We're still growing, still trying to figure things out. Things were changing. Bookers were constantly changing. Front office was constantly changing. The direction of the company. And Bagwell and myself, that was just one of those. Him and Scotty Riggs, perfect. perfect together. They
The
looked
American
perfect.
males. Yeah.
Yeah, and they gelled incredibly. Myself, that thing, they really didn't have a chance.
Shout out to Scotty Riggs, longtime listener of the Arn podcast. So
Good dude, too. I like, hello, Scotty.
Yeah.
Always thought a lot of you. Always tried to put some wisdom on you when you would ask, and it was my pleasure.
There you go. Arn's a big fan.